I'm Geoff O'Keefe. I'm the executive director of Zen Peacemakers, and it's nice to see everybody. And I agree with what's been said. It is very nice to see so many new faces, and Peter as well, an older face among the group. So thank you all for coming. We'll try to be lean and respectful with your time today. And really, this I have a few things to say up front, but mainly this is Q&A. So be comfortable. You're among friends. We will be together for most of a week, and feel when we get to the Q&A, please feel comfortable asking questions. Let me just go through a few notes that I made just to cover really the basics. And none of this will be a surprise to anyone, I hope. For those of you who have not been on a Bearing Witness retreat, this indeed is a retreat. This is not with the same solemnity or formality of a Zen Sesshin, but we do try to, we will be in cities, we will be in hotels, we'll be on a couple of buses, we'll be around a lot of other people, which is somewhat different than some of our other retreats. Nonetheless, we want to do the best we can to maintain that mindset and that heart, really, of retreat, of intentionality, and of cohesiveness of this group, and of maintaining our presence of mind. Now, that doesn't mean we're walking around, in formal posture in hotels in Birmingham and Montgomery. We will have periods where we will try to be silent, probably mostly on the bus when we go back and forth, which is a nice opportunity to do that. But we do want, as best we can, to try to physically stay together, even though I know some people are staying, in different housing locations. Share meals when we can. And move through this experience as one body as best we can. And the spirit holders, we have 3 spirit holders who will really help us more with that approach to this retreat. Everyone knows our dates at this point. We're arriving in Birmingham on Saturday the 7th of May. Sunday noon, we'll move to Montgomery on a bus. We'll be in Montgomery 3 nights, and we'll be leaving the afternoon, hopefully, of Wednesday, May 11th. By this time, other than those who may be fortunate to be able to drive, you have your travel booked. I recommend it if not. You have your hotels secured, and these can come up as questions later, if need be. As in Sesshin, as in a retreat, we want to really be mindful of being on time for all of our events, and on time means early. And particularly with a group, we've got 36 as of this morning, and there may be a few more yet. So if we have a bus, for instance, on Sunday morning leaving Birmingham for Montgomery at noon, we all want to be there 15, 20 minutes early and make sure that we're ready to pull away on time. We can talk about this on Saturday night in Birmingham, but just so we get it, so it's said a couple of times, Sunday morning we'll want to have checked out, left our bags with the concierge, before breakfast or after breakfast, before we go to the 16th Street Baptist Church, so that when we come back, it's a simple thing to grab our bags and jump on the bus. I mentioned silence. We will, and the spirit holders, I think, will go into this in a little more detail, but we will, for the most part, want to silence our phones other than as necessary. We're all going to have our own sleeping accommodations, and it's understandable. We all need to check in with families, perhaps with work, and things like that. But we want to keep that to a minimum and ideally not have phones be going off while we're sitting on the grass doing meditation, or while we're in the church, or while we're at the EGI museums and so forth. We are the first day, Sunday, we'll be on the bus, and we are arranging lunch to be delivered that we can then take onto the bus and eat lunch on the bus. Similarly, we will be arranging lunch in Selma on Monday and lunch in Montgomery on Tuesday. And that will be covered by Zen Peacemakers. Those are the only meals that will be covered by Zen Peacemakers. But in the interest of time and keeping people together and everyone not wandering off to try to find a lunch spot, we elected to do that. And we'll do our best to try to order so that we appeal to the broadest number of diets. Clothing throughout the retreat will be casual and comfortable. The weather, and a few of you are in the, I believe Tim's in Atlanta, Clear Grace is in North Carolina, and I realize it's a big area, but I don't know what the weather is like now. But it could be anything from very, very hot and humid. It could be raining, and it could be windy. It could be all kinds of things. So casual, comfortable clothing, good walking shoes, rain jacket, perhaps a sweater. You never know. I think having a backpack so that you can carry some of those things with you, along with water and perhaps sunscreen, is a good idea. In Selma, we will be doing, and this is, if I have the schedule in my head properly, Monday, we will be doing work practice at the Edmund Pettus Bridge. I don't think we need to be bringing overalls and work boots and heavy duty gloves and so forth, but be mindful that we might get dirty a little bit. I mentioned the weather, and I mentioned walking shoes. We will be walking in Birmingham. Grant, I think from the hotel to the 16th Street Church and Ingram Park is probably about 4 or 5 blocks, if I remember from looking at the map. But then in Montgomery, I think the walking is a little bit more than that. We will be going to a couple of different places, so be prepared to walk. Again, comfortable shoes and so forth. Those were the bullets that I had. Grant, do you want to tack on anything to what I said before we open up to Q&A?
I just want to reinforce the request to make sure you are on time, so that we can respect everyone else's time. We can all gather and not have to run around trying to figure out where you might be. As important, I want to stress too what you said, Geoff, at the beginning, or maybe you said it once or twice. I think we need to see, we want this to be a retreat. It'll be moving, it'll be in public. We'll be mindful about how we show up in public. We want to be mindful about how we show up for ourselves and those around us. But we want to be quiet as much as we can be, because it's the opportunity to see and feel what's there, as opposed to be distracted by the conversations we might feel necessary to share with others. And I would strongly encourage those of you who can actually turn off your phone and your computer and disengage from work and family, except for emergencies, as you would on a retreat. That will make it richer. I think those of you who've been on the retreats at Auschwitz and been on the streets and been in Rwanda and been in different places know that it's a lot easier to actually stay there, be there, stay there, if you don't step into the need to find how much the world needs you. I just want to reinforce that. So that's all I have, Geoff.
Thanks, Grant. I appreciate the backup and the reinforcement. With that, again, this is intended to be Q&A, so we used up a little bit of the time, but I can see everybody. We're a small enough group, so if you want to ask a question or make a comment, wave your hand and I'll just call on you and you can unmute yourself. And Grace and Phillips, I can't see you, so there is an electronic hand down under reactions, and when you put it up, it looks like that. That's mine. So, are there questions or comments or concerns? Genjo Roshi, please. Thank you. Hi.
I think it would be good to name the spirit holders and their function.
Grant, would you like to speak to that?
Sure. So Muke, Willie Smith, our board member and senior practitioner at Billy Zendo in New York. Gyoku, who recently retired from her very wonderful gifts to ZCLA in San Francisco. And Paco Davina, who is also a board member and has been, I don't know whether he was actually walked on the Pettus Bridge, but he was deeply involved in civil rights as far back as then. So those are our spirit holders. The spirit holders are there to help hold the spiritual part of the container. Staff make sure the buses are working, the bus works, and that the food's being delivered or not, and we pick up all the bags and that kind of thing. So that's the physical sort of normal world plane responsibilities. But if something shows up, if there are folks who have some real challenges, sort of spiritual challenges, some emotional challenges, it's the spirit holders are hopefully there to help fill in that and guide that. And yeah, so that's, I hope that answers. Genjo, yeah.
Thanks for the question, Genjo. I think that perhaps that's a question more than a few people had too. So
in previous ZPI plunges or bearing witness retreats, there's been always an opportunity for council in small group in the morning, and then a big council in the late afternoon or early evening. Are we following that kind of model?
We are, and for me, and I think for all of us really who've been on those retreats, council is a critical foundation of the experience. And our attention now, because we have full days and we're moving around a bit, we're not planning on having council in the morning, but we will have each of the 3 evenings when we're settled. So we're not going to have council the very first night we're there, but we'll have council back in Montgomery each of those days, and it'll be smaller groups, 7, 6, 7, something like that. So, but thanks, Genjo. Yeah, for those of you who don't know what council practice is, then you're stepping perfectly into the first tenet. Don't worry about it. You'll find out, and it'll be wonderful. I think you'll appreciate it.
thank you, Grant. And Cindy, I'm going to call on you in just 1 second, but I realize there's an item on my list of notes that I should have included. Saturday evening, we've reserved a room at 7:30. Hopefully people will have had dinner by then. We've reserved a room for an orientation. And I don't know the layout of the Redmont Hotel. I couldn't tell you where it is. But we will gather there at 7:30, and we'll be able to go through some of this again. There will be probably further questions people might have by then. And the spirit holders will have a chance to share with us and to help set the tone and the feeling for the retreat the night before. So mark your calendar for Saturday evening, 7:30, and we'll make sure that we know how to direct people to where the room is. Cindy, go ahead.
Let me just rephrase what you said. I'd like to officially remove the word hopefully. You need to be there at 7:30. This is how we need to start out, because we're going to start with there's a wonderful local activist in Birmingham Birmingham who will give us a little history of what we will be seeing the next day. It's not going to be a big history lesson, but she puts things in context. One of the things that you'll probably say, which was an education for me, was maybe all of us know the 16th Street Baptist Bridge, where Baptist Church, where the young girls were blown up. She describes the 16th Street Baptist Church as having been blasted into civil rights. They were not active, really. They were not as active as some of the other churches in Birmingham. So it's just interesting to hear that. But you want to be part of that, and you want all of us to step in together to this retreat. So 7:30, please be sharp. Early.
Thank you, Grant. I appreciate that. Cindy, go ahead, please.
Sure. Just a couple of things. One, I'll be driving, so I'm assuming that from Birmingham to Montgomery, it would just be following the bus. Yes.
I would say yes. That's good.
Okay. Just in terms of schedules, in terms of for folks who have a workout practice, will be going from morning to night? Will there be some? I mean, do you have a sense of how early we're getting up in the morning, that kind of stuff?
Well, one of the things is I found. I mean, Bernie was very, very clear about how he wanted these plunges to unfold, and he wanted them to unfold with as much not knowing as possible.
Okay.
So I think that, like, since we're talking about this getting started on Sunday morning, we'll be probably early, but we're going to tell you each night what the schedule is for the next day. Okay. If you like to work out at 7 o'clock in the morning, then you have no problem. We won't be starting that early any day. If I can do that, if I can help it.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
I tried to talk Grant into a 6 a.m. start one day, and there was no chance that was going to fly. Let's see. Do we have any more questions? Any other? Again, Joe, hi. I see you again.
As I recall, there was also an opportunity to do some silent meditation, or there was a silent meditation room before things got started in some locales of places I've been, and it was I believe it was optional. I mean, I'd love that if there were such a thing, and wondering if there's going to be that kind of offering.
We haven't thought about it. That's something I guess we could explore, and I imagine you're thinking of, because if we start the day at 8 or 8:30 on the bus after having breakfast, then that would be a room that would be at 6:30 or something, or 6. Is that what you're thinking? Something like that?
Exactly what I'm thinking.
Okay. Well, we have a planning group that meets every week. We'll key that up and see. I mean, I'm just curious, how many of the folks on the call today would like to be able to sit together like that before the day starts? Then we got to get on it. Okay.
I've added it to the notes for
okay.
Monday, Grant.
Cool.
And Gendra, there are during the day there are 2 opportunities to sit meditation together outdoors. Kelly Ingram Park on Sunday, and then on the grass outside of EJI.
I love it. I just, my own preference is that I get started in the morning, especially when we're doing something rich and heavy, that I have some time to settle before anything gets going.
Yeah.
Good idea. At a minimum, and depending on how many people want to participate, maybe one of us can just host that in our room, but we'll look at it. But certainly, I'm glad you brought it up, Genjo. Thank you.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you, Genjo. Anyone else here? There must be some other questions.
Yeah, aren't we supposed to gather at 6 o'clock the first day that we arrive? Is that Saturday?
And Ara, thank you for pointing that out. And we may have had communications where we were still figuring things out, and we said that. So intentionally, we want to gather by 7:30, which really means quarter after, for this orientation meeting that I spoke about and that Grant Grant underscored. And again, dinner will be on our own. I know people are going to group up for dinner a little bit, so and that'll be lovely, and we encourage that. But 7:30 on Saturday evening.
Great.
Doreen, hi. Thank you.
Hi. My question is, I'm actually going to be flying, and I'm coming into Birmingham. I arrive at 2:05 on Saturday, and I didn't know if there was anybody else who would be coming in around the same time that would like to share getting a ride to the hotel. I'm happy to just have a ZPI sign so we could find each other, or I don't know if anybody would want to do that.
I think I'm coming in at that time too, but let me just take a quick look.
Yeah, we might be as well.
Well, this is Valerie. I see your hand too. And are you arriving about the same time? Is it?
Yes, I am.
I think what we'll do, and I know Mioshin's on, so she can help me remember to do this. We'll send an email to everyone who's registered. Number one, asking permission to share your email address with the rest of the group. We always want to be mindful of that confidentiality. If everybody's comfortable with their email being visible to the rest, then we can send a group email saying, asking if you're flying into Birmingham, what time are you arriving, and would you like to connect to rideshare? If that seems like it'll make sense. So.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, very good.
Mimsie's had her hand up a couple times. I just want to make sure.
Yeah, I see. Oops, where did she go? She bounced. Muji, why don't you go ahead while we're waiting here? Oh, Mimsie's
Oh,
gone.
she's here. Yep, she's up.
Okay. Yeah, so I saw on Tuesday it says morning independent visit. So am I right in assuming that we make our own plans if we want to go to any of those spots that are listed in the packet?
We'll share suggested spots that you will want to walk in silence to explore. The capital of Alabama is rich in history of what has happened to racial history, but it's also sadly rich in what's currently happening. So we'll point out a couple, some spots for you to go by yourself or with a small group to visit in silence and just feel it and see it. And maybe we should think about a different word than independent, Geoff. But I don't know. I mean, it's an important part of the retreat. What I have found when I've walked those different areas, I've come across things that stunned me. So we're going to share some of those suggested spots for you to go,
Yes.
Okay.
And then we will organize ourselves back and walking over to the Memorial for Peace and Justice, which is what's also known as the Lynching Museum. That's extraordinarily powerful. We will meet there for lunch in a building, and then we will spend the afternoon over there on Tuesday. And then we have on Tuesday night, the retreat's over. I mean, we're going to close it. But we're suggesting for those of you who will be leaving Wednesday afternoon, midday, whatever, to take the opportunity to continue to just sort of walk the area and see what's really still happening. Of course, the history's rich. So that's also independent.
Mimsy and everyone else, in addition, we created a very simplified map of downtown Montgomery with the location of the hotel and other key places around that one would want to go to. It's in the informational packet. I believe we might have added it as an edit a little bit later. If you don't have it, Everyone has.
We'll hand out hard copies.
Yeah,
when you arrive.
Yeah. Thank you.
Got it. Thank you. Yeah,
Okay.
thanks.
Michelle Muji, if you'd like to go.
Yeah. Sorry, just wondering, you had mentioned, or the literature had mentioned, building these, spending a lot of time building relationships with the local community activists and institutions, and we're going to be visiting some. I'm just curious just to get a flavor of who will be talking to us or hosting us at those institutions. Are we going to be like a tour group, visiting and listening to someone speak? Are we, I suppose it's probably different at each place, but I'd love to hear just a bit more, while also staying with no knowing, if you don't want to say too much.
Well, I think the first thing I want to say about that rich question, and it is our intention to build deep and long-lasting relationships. You can't do that in 3 days. I've been down twice, and Mookie's about to go down a second time with Paco next week. Geoff has been there. There are a lot, as all of you can imagine, a lot of sort of, if I might say, racism tourism that goes on in these areas. A lot of church groups that might helicopter in and leave. We're specifically trying to build relationships with, in Selma, for example, the Park Service that is woefully underfunded, done a very, very disappointing job in terms of taking care of the dilapidated Memorial Park underneath Pettis Bridge. That's where we're going to have some work practice. So we're going to start by contributing our labor to helping the place get better. We'll be spending some money in different places. We're being very conscious about, as much as possible, supporting the local community in Selma, which is quite depressed. So this is what we hope to be the beginning of an annual event down there, and through those relationships that we build over time, it'll be richer and deeper. And hopefully in a year, 2 years, whatever, rather than staying in hotels and motels, we'll be sleeping in the basements of churches or other such events. So we're doing the best we can for the first time, but this is not a once and done. We really imagine and hope this will be an American Auschwitz. And it won't be just Alabama. We're looking to, there's race issues across all the different, so-called races in America. And so this is one that's focused on racism through a Black lens and through the Southeast lens. Yeah. I'd tell you more, but there's no reason to. I mean, you'll see, and what we think's happening right now may not happen, and maybe something else. So it's as Jeff Bridges said so well in The Big Lebowski, no shit could come to light. And the spirit holders will help us navigate that.
Thanks, Grant. Ramon, you've got your hand up.
Thank you. You had mentioned in the latest email that you were running out of space for, I think you're talking about 40 people, upwards of that. And if they're not being filled, I would like to help because of money. I'd like to help somebody else. I already gave a contribution, but I'd like to be able to be helpful. And if you guys can reach out to me, I will support one other person in the best way I can to come with us, because I think it's very important.
Very kind of you, Ramon, and we will. I'll be in contact with you about that. We're at 35 right now, and we're thinking 40 is probably a limit, but that's a little flexible too. So,
my brother, my one and only brother, wanted to come, but he demurred because it was Mother's Day. And his mother-in-law is getting on in years. So I said, of course, you got to deal with that. But it is Mother's Day in the American marketing tradition. So I don't know. I just said it. So
Understood.
No, well, thank you for pointing that out. We knew that when we scheduled this weekend, but we scheduled this weekend because we had to. The anchor of this event is the Memorial Feast of Justice in Montgomery. The only day we had, like 3 days in April, 3 days in April or May, and of the options, the Tuesday after Mother's Day was the one that was really only work, and yeah, so that's sort of what happened.
as we know, every day is Mother's Day.
Well said. Who cares about the dads, right?
That's absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you, Ron. Mm-hmm.
On that day, it might be a good excuse, it might be nice to ask the people we meet about their mothers.
Good point.
Thanks, Peter.
Thank you.
We have any other questions here? And this is really rich. It's great. What your contributions, your questions really help, because I think, as I said to Genjo, I think other people may have the same question. So thank you.
I thought I saw Sister Grace's hand up at one point.
Let's see. Do I?
Oh yeah, one was.
Hello, thank you, Grant. I had it up, but you sort of answered the question. And I don't know if it was so much a question, but I think you mentioned that it was through a Black lens or a Southeast lens. And I think I was just wondering if some of the points of interest or the way that we're leaping into the bearing witness, were we looking at it as well through a white lens, perhaps like through the first White House in the Confederacy or the old antebellum South, as that is part of, all the 10 directions, right? Not as victim or perpetrator, but to deeply plunge in for healing and understanding was just something I think I was curious about, and I think you answered that a bit. So if you wanted to expand on that, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I get teary-eyed. Of course. And I can only show up as the white guy that I am, So it's, but what I found as I was talking about before, walking some of these places in current Montgomery, stunning. What's still these memorials to Southern Valley. And of course, one of the most visited spots in Montgomery, as you probably know, is the Southern White House. So yeah, it's racism through a Black lens in the Southeast is what I'm just describing it as, and it's racism through white eyes and through Asian eyes and through Latino eyes. This is just part of who we are, and it's been denied so much. And this is long, long overdue for ZPI. I remember when I first did my first Auschwitz retreat, which we're trying to model this after. I didn't need someone over there to ask me, why are you coming all the way across the pond to witness genocide when you've done the same thing to Native Americans? And you got your own race issues over there. Continue. And we weren't doing anything, which led us into Native Americans. But we haven't, I was confused like a lot of people. Once Barack Obama got in the White House, it's sort of like it wasn't a problem anymore. Well, we know that's very false. And so we need to keep this alive, and we need to dive into it and bring our own bodies and our own perspectives and way of being into something that we plunge into and get uncomfortable with. And there's going to be some discomfort here for all of us for different reasons, which is part of the exercise to get us out of our bubble of self.
Thanks, Grant.
Yeah.
Thank you, and happy to be doing this work with each of you as well. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm glad you're with us.
Phyllis, I see your hand, and then Sasha, I see yours after Phyllis.
Hi, I'm Phyllis Cullum. I'm in Annapolis, Maryland, and I'm married to Sensei Bob, although most of my own practice is with Thich Nhat Hanh's Order of Inner Being. But perhaps I have not read all the literature sufficiently, have heard about the work practice before. And maybe Grant has sort of answered my question in referring to a park. And as you know, Geoff, I had asked you before the retreat started, I have walking issues and standing issues. And I'm just wondering if this is going to be a rather gentle practice, say perhaps weeding or planting or something. I will be bringing a sitting device with me that I could do without physical challenges that are heavy.
I'm going to let Grant answer that, but I really appreciate the question. And Phyllis, just so you know, you're not alone. I will be in the same boat. So, Grant, go ahead.
Yeah, I think the first thing is that we would be very clear in that we don't want anyone to do anything they're not comfortable doing. And that's just whatever it is. But the work practice we're doing is very gentle. When Geoff said you might get dirty, I was thinking to myself, I'm not sure what we're basically doing is picking up trash. It's just full of trash. So we'll be gathering trash in this. It's just so disrespectful. It would be nice to be able to perhaps repair a handrail or steps or something, but it's in such disrepair you wouldn't know where to start. But we can clean up all the trash, and the park. A guy that Mukesh developed a good relationship with, very appreciative of that, and sees it as an opportunity to help him build bridges between the city and the county. I mean, I guess it shouldn't be surprising to anyone that the sort of nature of tribes and clans cuts across all kinds of areas, and even in poor, depressed Selma, that's going on, and so we're hoping that this practice will help that as well, but it will certainly clean up the park momentarily until we get back there and do it again. But it'll be easy. It'll be easy, and if you feel like sitting down, we're going to all be in the same area, so where we sit will be down there as well. So we're going to spend the time there, and you can dig into it as deeply as you want, or lay back.
Again, Phyllis, thanks so much for the question. And as I've said twice now, I suspect others may have similar concern or question. Sasha, you've got your hand up too.
Thanks. I guess one thing that I'm wondering about, and I haven't been on a bearing witness retreat before. I think I attended the plunge last year that was held online of focusing on the enslavement of African Americans. But I guess what's coming up for me, around the silence and what was said about there'll be 3 councils, 1 each evening. And it's kind of making me wonder, just if there are other ways to incorporate dialogue or counsel, even optionally, just ways that we can connect with each other and reflect, and also bear witness to racial dynamics as they're arising in the group, which I don't know what the place for that is in a bearing witness retreat, since I haven't attended one before. But I just remember having the experience in the plunge online that it felt somehow like the council missed something, the council, there was a gap, where there were, I just remember there being dynamics that a few people mentioned to me where they, as people of color in councils of where all the other people in the council were white, ended up feeling quite kind of almost like certain kinds of racial dynamics were being reproduced in the council that couldn't be addressed because the council has a format of not cross-talking. So yeah, I'm just kind of wondering how this kind of possibility will be addressed, and if, how that is handled in these kinds of retreats.
I think the first thing I want to say, if the only other retreat you've been on was the virtual one last year, this will not be like that at all. That was necessarily virtual, so you're, other than the council, which is of course virtual and not in person, and you can't feel the energy as you can when you're sitting around the candle together. It's much more powerful. Virtual council is helpful, but it's orders of magnitude more effective when you're in person. So I would say that. And because this will be 24/7 for 4 days, we have there'll be opportunity over breakfast, over dinner, when you're walking from one place to another. While many people may want to be in silence all of that time, some people will be happy to share and talk, and that's an opportunity to do that. You can always speak one-on-one with the person who you think you feel a need to speak with. They're comfortable, and you can speak to a spirit holder, you can speak to a staff member. But the council practice, the format that we use is been very helpful, and we will stay with that format for council, but council will only be roughly 1 hour 24 each day. So there'll be opportunity, unlike the virtual, to get to know and be with all different everyone else. I hope that answers the question. I hope that, I appreciate the way you framed the question. I appreciated your sensitivity to those issues. This is our reality. And we hope to create a container that will allow us to, however we're showing up, whatever body we happen to have been born in, to bring that with full and open heart to each moment while we're together. And I have found when I've been at Auschwitz, when I was at Rwanda, it's very powerful. Can be. I don't want to try to mismanage expectations, but it'll be okay. It'll also be painful. You'll probably cry. You may laugh. I don't know.
Yeah. Sasha, thank you. And once again, I think this may be a question others have. And Joe, I see you and you got a hand up, and I thought Tim did too. But I just want to make a comment. For anyone who has not participated in council before, if you're interested at all, Zen Peacemakers offers council of some sort pretty much every week of the year. Tomorrow morning at noon Eastern time, my friend Sensei Jorge Cojo will be leading council for an hour and a half, and it's open to everyone. And if you'd like to join him, he's a lovely council facilitator. And then next week on Tuesday, another friend of ours, Roshi Grover Genro Gaunt, will be leading council Tuesday morning at noon Eastern time. So if you're inclined to do so, just to have a little bit of experience of council before the retreat, those are two opportunities that come up. Joe, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, thank you. Just a simple logistics question. I heard here today the retreat officially ends on Tuesday night. I think in some of the documentation it suggested it was over when we should not leave before Wednesday afternoon. So given the limited flights options that I have back, I just wanted to clarify if it's Wednesday afternoon or Wednesday morning or Tuesday night.
It's officially over Tuesday night. So I don't know if there are going to be any flights, only for driving perhaps, but if you want to leave Tuesday night, but it might not be till 9 o'clock, because So that's that. So you leave Wednesday morning. The reason why we suggested Wednesday afternoon is because it's been my experience, having been there twice. It's still just I find it really rich just to walk around again and just keep revisiting the places. But yeah, you won't if you want to schedule yourself to leave on Wednesday morning, that would be fine.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Joe. And Tim, did I see your hand up earlier, or did your question get answered, or did
I was deciding to put it in the chat, but I'll just say that since I'm driving from Atlanta, if anyone needs a ride from Atlanta or to Atlanta on either end, I'm happy to try to arrange that. It'll be easy to do, probably.
Wonderful.
The airport's a lot easier. A lot more flights in and out of Atlanta, so I didn't know if anyone had scheduled that.
Yeah. Thank you, Tim, for the offer. We're coming up on our hour here, but let's take time for any other questions anyone has. I think, unless I'm missing, I don't see any other hands. Thank you all for staying with us for the hour. And do look for an email. Once again, we'll do 2 steps. We'll ask your permission first before we share your email, and then everyone who's comfortable having the group have the email, we'll reach out about sharing Ubers or Lyfts or taxis or whatever else it might be, rides from Atlanta and so forth. Grant, anything you want to add before we close?
I just thank everybody for being here, and it's nice to get a chance to know some of you a little bit. I'm looking forward to taking the plunge with all of you. So thanks for being here today.